About 5 months ago I bought my dream camera, an ARRI mirror. Over the past decade, the majority of the biggest and most critically acclaimed Hollywood films and TV shows were shot on ARRI cameras, and now I would be among the ranks of those who own one for themselves. Prior to this, I'd always used Sony cameras, going all the way back to my high 8 days in high school when I first started making films. But what now? Now I had the mirror, was it time to sell my Fs7? Were my Sony days behind me? Or would there still be a place for my Fs7 alongside the mirror? Was it possible to match the cameras closely enough that I could maybe even use them in conjunction as an A-cam, B-cam setup? I had been making S-Log to Alexa LUTs for the previous 12 months already, but I'd never actually been able to compare them to a real ARRI camera. Could I make a LUT that would bridge the gap? Over the next 5 months I did dozens of side-by-side tests and got to really understand the differences and similarities of these two very unique cameras. Owning both meant I could test wherever and whenever I wanted to without having to worry about renting expensive equipment. It also meant I could take both cameras to their limits to really understand the character and quality of each. This footage is from our second last day of testing, which we did with an Fs5. On the last day we used an Fs7. For all of our tests we used identical lenses, the Sigma Art 18-35. One of the lenses was cine modded and one wasn't, which explains the difference in their appearance, but the glass was identical. What I learned was that it was going to be very difficult to totally match the two cameras with a LUT, because sometimes the sensors just saw things differently, and no LUT was ever going to change that. For example, in one scenario the ARRI sensor might skew green compared to the Sony, and then another time, in seemingly similar lighting additions, it would skew magenta. Then if I underexposed the cameras, the sensors shifted their colours again in unique ways. I realised if I was going to match them successfully, I had to find a sweet spot between all of the differing variables and allow for slight variations here and there. So though it's not always a perfect clone copy, I really believe I've managed to create a LUT that truly captures the soul of the ARRI. In the following few clips I'm going to compare my Fs7 with my mirror side by side. Here you can see my LUT next to the ARRI. But I'm also going to see how well DaVinci's Color Space Transform and Sony's LC709A LUT stack up against the ARRI. Above all else, I concentrated on recreating the subtle nuances in the skin tones that the ARRI rendered compared to the Sony. The overall cast and balance of the image was another real focus. For example, the ARRI has a very filmic response to color saturation as it models subtractive color like film does, as opposed to digital, which is typically an additive color medium. This concept is key in recreating ARRI's famous highlight roll-off, as with subtractive colour the tones thin out and lose saturation as they approach white. This was all modelled in the LUT. You can see that the overall look of the ARRI is slightly green and warmer as opposed to the Sony LC709A LUT and the Color Space Transform, which lands us in a very blue and magenta place with pink and ghostly pale skin. Though the skin is pale with the Sony LUT, I find that there is an abundance of pink and red in the skin when compared to the ARRI, which is by contrast much more flattering and balanced when it comes to skin tones. This too is modelled in the LUT. Many other concepts I don't have time to discuss here in this video were incorporated into the design, like colour separation and really white whites as an example. But let's move on to some examples of what the LUTs look like in a real-world context with some of my own footage shot in S-Log over the past 12 months.